On December 7th, 2024, I asked 13 friends and family members to send me an ingredient to put into a vegetarian stew. I'm calling it the Dubious 3-Cabbage Stew. Here's how to make this abomination. The first ingredient we'll be using is jasmine rice, which my sister suggested. When adding rice to a soup, I always recommend cooking the rice separately and adding as much as you want when serving. So, cook the rice in a slow cooker and keep it warm until we're finished with the rest of the soup. The next ingredient we'll add is a white onion, which was suggested by my brother-in-law, Sam. Heat up about a tablespoon of vegetable oil in a pot and throw in the chopped onions. Cook the onions on medium heat until translucent, about 7 minutes, then reduce the heat to low and add half a stick of butter. Continue cooking the onions for about 15 more minutes, stirring from time to time to prevent burning until the onions smell a bit sweet. The next ingredient we'll add is garlic, suggested by my mom. Turn the heat up to medium and add the minced garlic. Stir frequently for about 5 minutes until the garlic barely starts to tan. Next to the pan we'll add a head of chopped broccoli, which was suggested by my friend Dylan, chopped zucchini, which was suggested by my friend Jackie, and chopped yellow squash, which was suggested by my friend Alyssa. Then we'll add some better than bouillon seasoned vegetable broth paste, along with 3 pints of water. I never tried this broth paste before, but it's pretty good. Maybe don't eat it on its own though. Anyway, bring the pot to a boil and let it simmer on low for about 15 minutes, then remove from heat. This is where I messed up. See, what I wanted to do was blend the soup so it's nice and smooth, but I don't have an immersion blender, so I tried using a standing blender, but you can't blend things that are steaming hot or else the blending process will create a bunch of air pressure and the contents of your blender will escape and fly everywhere. Well, I didn't know this, so that happened, and I had to clean up a bunch of stuff, and I didn't film it, so you just have to trust me. So anyway, back to the recipe. Ladle the solid ingredients from the stew into a big bowl, cover the bowl with cling wrap, and leave it in the freezer for later, so that all you have remaining on the stove is some broth in a pot. The next ingredient we'll be adding is a pound of silken tofu, suggested by Shelby. Blend this in a blender and add to the broth. The result will be a nice, thick, tofu-y, brothy substance. Next we'll be adding 3 medium red potatoes, cubed, which were recommended by my friend Jacob, as well as a can of sweet corn, drained, which was recommended by my friend Anna. Bring the broth to a boil. While it's heating, add the potatoes and corn. Simmer this for about 15 minutes. And here come the 3 cabbages. First, we have Napa cabbage, which was an ingredient that I threw into the suggestion pool before I asked my friends for ingredients. What a fool I was, thinking that nobody else would recommend cabbage. We'll be discarding the spines and only using the leafy green bits, then chopping those up. Secondly, we have bok choy, which was recommended by my friend Sky. Great minds think alike, I guess. We'll be using some of the stems in this, but mostly using the leafy green bits. And thirdly, we have half a red cabbage. My friend Zek just said cabbage as an ingredient, but I took the liberty of choosing a red cabbage for a pop of color. This was a mistake. Add the chopped up bok choy, Napa cabbage, and red cabbage to the stew. Mix this until all of the leaves are under the broth, and continue to simmer. It will turn a lovely shade of lavender from the red cabbage and tofu. I just wanted to point out that this was around the time that my neighbor's cat jumped onto the sill of my open kitchen window and scared the daylights out of me. I didn't film this either, so you just have to believe me, I guess. While that is simmering, remove the bowl from the freezer. It'll probably still be pretty warm, but it should no longer be steaming. Add the contents of the bowl to a blender and blend, creating a thick green broccoli squash slurry. Add the slurry to the rest of the stew. Mix the stew well. It will become a lovely gray color. See, I really thought the red cabbage was a good idea at the time, but geez, this is unappetizing. The second to last ingredient was suggested by Curtis. It's called paneer, and it's a creamy Indian cheese. It's honestly the highlight of the dish, and I'm really glad I got to try it. Simply slice it into small cubes and add it to the dish. The paneer doesn't melt, so you have to cut it up pretty small. Finally, the last ingredient to add is about half a can of tomato paste, which was suggested by my boyfriend, David. And oh boy, does this tomato paste save the appearance of this dish. It turns from a gray sludge to a red sludge, which looks much more appetizing. Simmer and stir the stew until it is well mixed. Sprinkle a little MSG and add any spices you like. I used paprika, cayenne, and black pepper. Add salt to taste and serve over rice. It tastes surprisingly good. I'm a big fan of cabbage stew, and this has strong flavors of cabbage. Like, the flavor profile is mostly cabbage. The paneer adds these pockets of fatty goodness, and all the other vegetables come together to create a good background flavor. The texture is interesting. It is certainly thick from the blended broccoli, zucchini, yellow squash, and tofu, and it's served over rice with loads of leaves of cabbage, chunks of potato and corn, and cubes of paneer. It is dense. Verdict. Should you make this? Probably not.